It's like mummy season.
It is. Mummies love pumpkins, by the way. Did you know that?
I'm not surprised.
I'm just kidding. All right. Let's hear about a lovely sight.
Okay, so this is El Cab, or as he said, El Cab. So I found a video. It's only a minute and a half.
It's cab. It's not an Uber.
Wait, why is it not showing up? Oh, goodness gracious.
Okay. That's all right. We got to turn the sound
I'm
up.
sorry. It's not showing up there, though.
It isn't?
No. I forgot how weird this video is.
Hold on.
Here we go.
Is that it? Okay.
Yeah.
I'll try to turn the sound up.
Okay, I think it's still recording. That means it's recording, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But you need to hit the...
Oh, see, that's why I hit pause, because... This video is really weird.
Did you turn it down? Okay. There we go. Oh, that's nice.
I just want to take you guys on a journey. I thought about rapping over this, my whole presentation.
Yeah, that'd be good. Throw a hell cap. It's MC Rock Cartoons. Egyptians walk this way.
Mummies. Mummies.
Yo! Dead man on the wall.
By cool lifestyle.
That was it?
That's it.
That's the whole thing? Nobody even said a word.
Yep.
That guy walking in his khakis.
Okay, now hold on.
Wait, you want me to extend this?
Now pause it. Let me pause it just for a second. Yeah, we have to extend it.
Okay. So, El Cab is kind of like a village. Like, as you saw in the video, it's not just one thing that was excavated. It's just like a whole place that you can go to. It is one of the oldest settlements of Upper Egypt, and the goddess of Nebket is represented with a white vulture. I thought it was interesting that like the white vulture was it kind of symbolized a goddess. I wouldn't put a vulture with a goddess, I guess, but it's interesting.
Yeah.
She was equated to the queen of Upper Egypt, and the main temple of El Cab is dedicated to her. It's made of sandstone, and it makes sense that like sandstone is what they use for the majority of it, because they got like the surroundings for El Cab is mostly sandstone, so it's easy to build with it. And sandstone is also like out of the sacred lake that is there, and it is also the Ptolemaic rock sanctuary was dedicated to Seshmetet, who is a god. The shape of El Cab it was kind of like a square, but then underneath, like, well, in the middle, it says that there were different temples. So like one of them it's really small, but it was in a square also, and it is 12 meters thick at water level. That's the border of the city. And then at the heart of the city are the two temples, which is there. The one that is dedicated to Nebkat and Amenhotep III. In the video, you saw the graffiti on the walls. That's how the websites described it, but that was just like the paintings that were inside of the temples and stuff. There's also a cemetery that dates toward 3000 BCE, and it is, instead of El Cab, that they called it the ancient town of Nekeb back then. So El Cab was big during the early dynastic kingdom up until the Ptolemaic kingdom. And then the archaeology of the place. So you can see that like there's lots of squares that surround it. It's very like structured. The archaeological remains dating to all periods of ancient Egypt, from prehistory to Greco-Roman times. They are present at El Kab, and the excavations undertaken at El Kab over the years have confirmed that all major periods of Egyptian history are represented. So it's very well preserved, which is why it just has a ton of history, because a lot of people just lived there for a lot of years. And then you could see El Kab. Can you see my mouse up there? Yeah. Right here. It's 80 kilometers south of Luxor, 15 kilometers north of Edfu. It's in the east bank of the Nile, and 50 miles west of Thebes. It is described as a bay between sandstone cliffs to the north and south. So there's the sandstone again. And then the main people who were represented in El Kab were Ramses II, Ramses III. They built a lot of the major things there, but they didn't inhabit it. They were just nearby. And those are my references.
All right, thank you.
I don't know what to
Any
do.
questions?
I'll take that as a no.
All right, here's our next site.
All right. Here in Acropolis, the city of the hawk, or at least that's what the Greeks want you to believe. The original name was Nechen, and that was the original Egyptian name. It is located in... What's that?
That's all right.
Okay, sorry. It was located in Upper Egypt, so the lower part of Egypt, approximately this part west of the...
In Upper Egypt, which is Lower Egypt?
Yeah, Upper Egypt, which is the southern part.
Okay.
So let's specify that a little bit. The Greeks, when they interacted in the area, they called it Hierakonpolis because that just means the city of the hawk, and it was where the god Horus, his cult, was mainly stationed. Archaeological evidence finds that it was probably developed around 3100 BC, but there was a lot of interaction with the area approximately 500 years earlier. They found a lot of living centers and artifacts dated back from that area. Let's see. Now, there is no strict archaeological bordering for the actual area of Nechen. It's around 0.9 miles in all direction, and I say around because it's been expanding as time has gone on. They found, oh, well, maybe this was actually much larger than we thought. Because we get... Which button is for the laser?
Up in the top and the middle.
Top of the middle. Oh, cool. Because you see, these borders are the main area that were originally there, but then they started finding tombs outside of the main area, little outliers. Now, the main burial sites are located all throughout the center area, and that's when they were finding all the cool stuff from the 3100 BC. And then they found some other areas outside that suggested, oh, well, this is probably older, and then they expanded throughout the area. And there is, you can see up north, a little fortification area here. That was one of the main cool finds. See if I can move forward.
There you go.
There we go. Now, this is just a picture of one of the living center areas that they found, where they were finding some cool artifacts and some ritual artifacts too, like masks and painted walls and carved stone walls. Now, these were this was by an excavation done by Ethan Marthel, I think his name was. But what was most important in the excavation found here was an armor plate. I think we talked about this a little bit earlier. It depicts King Narmer and his conquering of Egypt. Now, the first archaeologists who actually found this area of Egypt were James Quibble and Frederick Green. Now, artifacts had actually been brought out of this area for like decades beforehand by locals who were just raiding the area for treasures and selling them in markets to Europeans and tourists and other people who were interested. So, James Quibble traced down where the objects were being sold out of, and with his friend Frederick Green, they investigated the area, found the Narmer plate, and just tons of excavation has been happening since. Most of our information about Narmer afterwards comes from the archaeologist Michael Hoffman. He found a lot more of the writings related to Narmer and exactly how he conquered Egypt. There are actually still excavations going on to this day in the Meccan and Hierakonpolis area done by Renee Friedman, though. So if you want to, she actually has a website up if you want to look and see some of the information there. And that's pretty much all I had found about the Hierakonpolis Meccan area.
All right, very good. Any questions? So this is, the dating of 3100. Better give him a little clicker.
Oh, yeah.
Would make sense because this is when we have the unification of Upper and Lower Egypt. Elephantine.
All right, as you guys can see that I did my presentation on Elephantine. Elephantine basically...
Ooh!
Yeah, got the curtain effect going.
I like that.
It's basically an island on the Nile River. And as you can see, there's also some other islands as well from the map that I have here, but this is the main one, and this is like probably the biggest one on here, and it's located in Upper Egypt, which is southern Egypt. It's around opposite the Aswan city. Something specifically about this time period is that there's a large temple that was built during the 18th and 19th dynasty pharaohs dedicated towards Khnum, the ram god of the Cataract region. So there's many different phases of Elephantine that I'll be discussing, from the Old Kingdom to the Middle Kingdom and the New Kingdom, as it has much significance to each in Egypt. To the north, the Old and the Middle Kingdom shrines are located. During the Pharaonic times, it has been known as a strategic position of being the southern frontier town. So, as being in the south, in the Upper Egypt, it's been known for like a fortified area. As you can see today, it's still a very thriving city, or island, I should say. Okay, Elephantine in the Old Kingdom, which was from 2575 to 2130, and it was known as the Door of the South because it was like the gateway to Nubia. And the reason being is because it was also the most southerly city in Egypt and the starting point for the Sudanese trade. As you can see here, this is more of like a recent excavation right there, and this is more like what it might have used to look like during ancient times, so I thought that was a cool picture to kind of illustrate what happened during the Old Kingdom. Let's see, the next one. Now we're in the Middle Kingdom. So, I didn't really find too much information on these two periods, but it was basically an administrative center for the Egyptian-controlled Nubia. As you can see, Nubia will, as we go along, Nubia definitely has an effect even today upon this island here. And then, in the New Kingdom, it was part of the province of Nubia. Now, I couldn't really find too many ancient pictures on this for these different periods except for the Old Kingdom, but this is kind of a lot of what certain areas might look like today. A lot of the ruins for the archaeological excavations that have been done recently. And so basically, conclusion, this is basically a lot of what Elephantine looks like today, which is basically a province in Nubia. It is very much a thriving city on the island, and it has many different archaeological excavations that have been done, which is really cool because it goes way back to even prehistoric Nubian times, or prehistoric Egyptian times, in the early dynastic periods. It is also known, and because of this, it is known as the town for all ages because of the remains from the past that have been unearthed. It also demonstrates the progress of ancient Egyptian civilization from the prehistoric era ages to the Islamic area. And like I said, it is basically a modern day Nubian villages. I thought it was also really cool because this looks like there's a pool right here too. So, and here's some more archaeological excavations that they've done right there. And that's basically all that I have for you guys today.
Did you find any evidence of a Jewish settlement there?
No, I did not.
Synagogue?
No, I did not.
Okay. All right. Yeah, Elephantine also has, or a temple. There's some discussion about perhaps a building of the Jewish temple there, a Jewish temple there. It would have been outside the.
I think I actually heard that. I think I did hear about that.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
Yeah, it's pretty famous for that as well. So, and of course, then the idea was, you can't actually build a temple except where the temple was built. So this gets into a lot of discussion as to why the temple was there. And
is it probably before the Exodus?
No. It was after that period. All right. Yeah, you got a question?
No, I can go next.
Oh, you go next.
Okay, so I did Menamud, which is also known as the Temple of Montu. Okay, so it was a settlement in ancient Egypt, also located 8 kilometers north of Luxor, so I'll show you a map in just a few minutes and I'll kind of point that out to you. Excavated by Fernand Bisson de la Rogue. Not very good at pronouncing that. In 1925.
De la Rogue.
De la Rogue.
Ferdinand Bisson de la Rogue. Something like that.
Yeah, just like that. And he identified several buildings, including a temple dedicated to Montu. So Montu was a falcon god of war in ancient Egyptian religion, and it was originally a manifestation of Ra, which is like the sun, and also kind of known as Montu Ra. And then like his destructiveness, like the characteristic of that, led to him gaining characteristics of a warrior, and kind of became known as the war god. And he was mostly worshipped in Upper Egypt, in the district of Thebes, which is kind of where Luxor is. And then because of his strong association with raging bulls, they had a major center of worship for bulls, and you see that kind of like in the pictures of the temple later.
So did you give us where the location where it is?
The temple. It's 8 kilometers north of Luxor.
8. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, so that's just kind of an overview of Montu, and these are 2 of the pictures of like kind of how Montu was represented. Falcon, and then also a bull. So kind of 2 totally different things. So, but representative as well. This is in Busch Gardens in Tampa. It's a ride called Montu.
They have a ride of Montu?
Yep. So yeah, it's actually like one of the best ones they have there. So go check out Busch Gardens. They have like, you can see it kind of looks like Egyptian temple and stuff too. And look, they have like So that's how.
I've never been there.
Yeah, check it
I have
out.
to go just
Busch
to take
Gardens.
pictures of the ride.
I
probably don't want to ride it, but
it has the shortest wait time of all the
Yes.
rides, and it's the best ride in my opinion because it has a free hanging leg.
Yes.
So
That's actually why I chose Metamood, because I knew Montu from the ride at Busch Gardens. I have a pass, and so I was like, wait, that's like the ride. So that's kind of why I chose it, actually.
You have a pass, so you can go anytime. You could go like right now.
Yeah.
Okay. Is it open all year round?
Mm-hmm.
Busch Gardens?
Yeah, I think that's pretty awesome.
Assume
So I
it
just
is.
thought I'd kind of add that in there, just a little.
Yeah, I like that.
So the Temple of Metamoon, it's very close to Luxor, about 8 kilometers north of it. And it was once linked to the Temple of Montu at Karnak by a canal. So it was built by the great pharaoh Senusret III of the 12th dynasty. So the temple courtyard was used as a dwelling for the living bull. So I talked about how kind of Montu was like associated with the bull. And then the main entrance was to the northeast, while a sacred lake was on the west side of the sanctuary. The building consisted of 2 adjoining sections, a temple to the north and a temple to the south. It was built in raw bricks and carved stone. And then it underwent important restorations and renovations during the New Kingdom and the Ptolemaic and Roman period as well. So here's like a picture of the overview of the temple. You can see the sacred lake, the temple of the bull, main temple, courtyard, and then
Yeah, similar to the Temple of Karnak, the layout.
okay, what time is it? What am I doing on time?
You got a couple of minutes left.
Okay, great. So we can go over key features. This is actually a picture of that's a relief of the wall of Ferdinand in the temple itself. So, like I talked about before, Ferdinand Bisson de la Roque, in 1934, he excavated and cleared the ruins of the first 2 halls, which can be dated to the Ptolemaic period. The first was a apostle hall, and the other was dominated by the high crypt. At the back of the temple on the far end were revered traces of a church built directly on the limestone paving of the Pharaonic sanctuary. The columned court, which is like the apostle hall, which is probably begun during the reign of Ptolemy, and had various chambers, including a hidden treasure room above the chapel on the south side. And then below the paving slabs were unearthed blocks from previous construction phases of the temple, dating back to the very early Middle Kingdom kings, and dating back to the 11th dynasty. And some more key features. In the foundations of the Middle Kingdom structure, there were found some copper chests, and these were inside those copper chests, and they're called Todd
Lapis
treasures.
lazuli, it looks like down there too. The blue stone.
Yeah.
Comes from Afghanistan. Egyptians love that stone.
So those were found. Between 1981 and 1991, the site was again excavated, this time by another hard-to-pronounce name. You can read it there.
It's just called the Louvre.
The Louvre.
Museum.
Yeah.
Paris.
Focusing on the temple surrounding, and they kind of unearthed a terrace that was built at the beginning of the Middle Kingdom, and then they also excavated some private chapels that survived until the New Kingdom. There was no western entrance to the temple until the Dromos, which is an avenue or entranceway, was created in the 3rd century BC. And then the Dromos was never finished, and the platform overlooking the pier was redesigned in the 2nd or 1st century BC to include a monumental door, which is also never completed. And then the video, I don't know how we are on time.
Past time.
Okay,
How much
well,
more do you have?
this is it. The video just kind of shows some pictures, but
How
it's...
long is the video? Try clicking it as we pack up.
Okay, yeah.
Maybe it'll work. I don't know. It may not work. All right. Oh.
So it's...
Oh, I see.
I'm sorry, I have to get to it.
Go right ahead. Next time we're going to do our sources.
This one just shows some pictures of...
Okay, we'll let that run then. All right, so next time, have your sources ready to go. We'll see you then.
Bless you.
Hello?